Welcome, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us today to a very exclusive webinar. We are wrapping up October, and we're so excited to share with you some great discussions, especially today. But first, let me remind all of you, whoever who is going to join us today, to please tell us a little bit more where you're watching, where you are joining us today, and click that share button so you can play it forward and tell your network what's happening at Blue Star Careers. These webinars are designed to connect our members to job opportunities, partnerships, and career pathways, while also raising awareness of the latest resources that our community connections are growing. So this October, particularly, we're focusing with on personal wellness and being very mindful about taking care of yourself. There's a lot going on out there. And if you are feeling empty, you're feeling like, oh, things are just so much going on in our personal life. Today, we're hoping that you can take a little bit further evaluation on some strategies, some great personal action plans that you can do to take care of yourself. We're partnering up with AIM Leadership, and we are honored to welcome Dr. Camille Preston, a business psychologist and an executive coach who will lead our discussion and give us better ways. And when you're feeling that you're running empty, your whole family will feel it. And we want to make sure that all of you feel supported, you have a community, and then, of course, be able to share your thoughts as well and how we can share with you better actionable steps for you to do yourself a little bit more self empowerment and know that you're not alone. So let's begin. Thank you so much. We welcome once again your comments. Tell us where you're watching. We love to be able to send you shout outs towards the end. And we're really grateful for the opportunity to work with you this week, but most importantly, to wrap up October with a great discussion that is so needed for our community. For joining us. Welcome once again. Thank you very much, everyone who's tuning in, who's watching, and who will watch the replay. Please pay it forward. Remember, don't keep it to yourselves. Share it with those who may need to hear a great message or a great introduction to our network. But most importantly, also meet us in the neighborhood. That's when we're going to have a afterwards. Afterwards party and recap on some of the great discussion that we're about to take on. But first, let us welcome our great supporter, of course, a great friend of Blue Star Careers, Blue Star families in general, Dr. Camille Preston. Thank you so much for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedule to share a little bit more about yourself. If you would like to please introduce yourself, that would be fantastic.
Fabulous. I'm Dr. Camille Preston, a business psychologist and a avid fan of Blue Star families. I am in such awe of all that you all do, both in Blue Star families, but everyone who's a participant and member to support your families, your loved ones, and our nation and the work that your spouse is doing. So thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm really excited for this conversation. Laura, it's really humbling. We started this conversation in August and scheduling, and who could have anticipated that we'd be having this conversation at this point when everything seems to be colliding with so much complexity.
Absolutely. And again, thank you so much. I know you're a very busy, great professional. And so we really want to know for sure, a little bit more about yourself. And so take on the discussion, of course, that is so needed in our community to really fill our cup, which is feeling a little bit more empty sometimes for some of our great members in our community. But first, let's learn a little bit about your journey. What led you to AIM leadership and the creation? Why was this such a great fit for you?
Yeah, so thank you. Um, so I'm actually the daughter. My father, my stepfather, and my father-in-law were all military, and my parents were both educators, and um, I think I just grew up really curious. So if my father were still alive, he would say, from the time you were like 3, you were always asking the most difficult questions of like, why this or how did this come to be, and I was the youngest of 3 and the youngest of maybe like 52 cousins. So he didn't expect it from me. But it really shows that sometimes we're wired differently. So I've always been fascinated by people and service and helping people figure out where they are, where they want to get. And maybe that's like the result of being the youngest, always trying to keep up. But I came into AIM leadership kind of a little bit of a circuitous route. I had been working overseas for the State Department, came back to go to grad school and do my doctorate. And then I moved from when I graduated, I went up to Capitol Hill and I was doing change management. I'm sorry, I was doing policy work trying to help what we knew from psychological research inform policies. And it was really complicated and it was maybe not exactly everything I had dreamed of. So I left and I went to work for a nonprofit of police chiefs, police executives from large jurisdictions. And my first day on the job was 9/11, which is the day
Oh
that
no.
hometown security became homeland security. And so I was just propelled into this incredible opportunity to work with very servant oriented folks who were really um, just over their skis and had all of a sudden a new job definition, and everybody was turning to them for guidance and directions and the path forward, and they too were navigating their own uncertainty. So it was through my work at this global nonprofit that I realized just I love working with leaders. I love working with people who are committed to being the best version of themselves and who are um, just like all of us, good people working hard, doing the best that they can, but maybe with some gaps in the foundation, like they didn't learn the leadership tools or the kind of theory behind what builds trust or how to manage intensity or urgency. And I found myself with this incredible opportunity to launch AIM leadership and really step into serving leaders of all different types to be the best version of themselves. And gosh, it that was I started in 2003, officially launched in 2004. So it's been a hot minute since I've been at this, and I can't imagine being more blessed by the work I do. I don't have Sunday blues. I don't have Monday morning moments of panic. I'm just really grateful to be working with people like you all.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your journey. I mean, you're so correct. Sometimes we just go into this curiosity mode. Just a few of us are just very driven to helping and supporting others, and then just trying to find a different alternatives and solutions. It's really self-empowering as well to just to also be able to replicate good efforts to just take care of our community, right? And to be able to evaluate different strategies, different things that we can take in order for us to move forward, like you said, to be able to do a little bit more self-aware on how we can really lead ourselves towards better outcomes. Now, Dr. Camille, it feels recently like with everything that is going on, at least in our world in the workforce development, there's so many layoffs, there's so many fast-moving lanes in our different dynamics within the military community. So why does it feel sometimes that we're always in crisis mode, or we have a sort of a normalize all these different activities that go on, and we just don't respond or respond, but not probably the right way. So what can you tell us a little bit more about it? Why does it feel to be always
Yeah,
very
always on, always connected. It's an interesting salient data point that I feel like we're just kind of stepping into this awareness of what I often describe as like a latent stress or this addiction to stress. And so many people have been living so close to the edge, pushed, whether it's demands in the workplace or juggling kids or, the constant PCS kind of recalibration, you're lifting up, you're moving, you're setting down roots, you're lifting up, you're moving, that we get almost this addiction to stress is almost normalized, so that we get to the place where it feels normal to have the cortisol and the adrenaline running through us, and that we've lost track of what it means to be kind of rooted and grounded and firing from that energy of enlivenment as opposed to stress. Does that make sense for you as
Yes.
what you've seen? Yeah, we have this kind of there's an assumption or an illusion that exhaustion must means that I'm serving at the highest level. If I'm thoroughly spent, I'm must be being a good mom or a good partner or a good parent. And I think we're at this point where people are starting to say, wait a minute, I can't do this anymore. As a as someone who's often working with leaders who are dysregulated have organizations that are dysregulated, and the data is really there. Um, we have the highest levels of anxiety, depression, burnout, and loneliness that we've ever had. We've been tracking this data for years, and we're at a level. So that idea of being hyper vigilant, hyper connected, yet never at ease, has an incredible toll physically, emotionally, mentally, across all of the things that we care about.
And so interesting you mentioned, how we were this the whole concept of FOMO. I think it just reminded me of that, like this whole concept of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out.
Yeah.
But fear of missing out also sometimes some of this crisis and some of these different things that go on within our community. How can we regulate or self-regulate some of these things and not feel like we are doing our community a disservice for not showing up perhaps and taking personal time off, or missing out on some of the things that we know are going to be impactful into our future journey?
Yeah, so it's such a great question. Um, I'm an older mom, so I have young kids, but I'm an older mom, and I just go back in time when I was a kid. There might have been a party or a gathering or people spending time together, and I was missing out on an event over the weekend, but I didn't know about it till the next week when I got to school, and people are like, "Oh, we didn't see you at Sally's birthday party." Whereas now people are so connected and so wired that we can see everything that we're doing, but we can see everything that we're missing, and that access to that data stimulates the nervous system in a way that is really unhealthy. So that's that FOMO. If you're feeling like I have more FOMO than I realized, it's true, because that's the hyperconnectivity. I also think behind that is a struggle to step back, kind of get perspective, lift up. I often describe this concept as being a helicopter. If you were to step away from the day to day moments, kind of being on the ground, and lift up your helicopter to 10,000 feet or 20,000 feet, you can step away from the noise or the chaos or the emotions and say, what is it that actually really matters?
Right.
I'm single parenting right now. My kids need this. I need this. These are the hot top priorities. But from that lifted up perspective, you can then start to say, I'm not going to pay attention to this, or I'm not going to worry about that, or this actually really does matter. And so when I'm thinking about what people are navigating now in the complexity, it can be a lot to actually feel everything that's happening. This idea of getting altitude is a way of really getting perspective to say, what is it that matters most? And then giving yourself permission to shift gears.
And so let me ask you, from a workaholic individual mindset, how do you see your life from those type of heights and give permission to really take off and
Yeah.
just and walk away for for a couple of hours, for a couple of days perhaps? How is
Yeah.
that possible?
It's a great question. Um, and I'm going to answer it with a counterintuitive response, which is to say, um, there's this strain of being a workaholic and always being in work. Like
Mhm.
I get that, kind of the demands and the pressures. And there's something underneath it that is driving you to do that. There's some love of the work you're doing, or the adoration, or what your work enables you to be able to do, right? Maybe you have longer hours than you want, but it allows you to provide the roof over the head for your kids or meals or what have you. So the first thing I would say is focus on what it gives you. Can be just a micro shift that that can shift everything. I'll tell it as a quick story. Um, there's a story about two people who worked in a hospital, and the the head surgeon comes in and is ranting and raving. I hate this place. No one seems to value da 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 da. I was promised this parking spot. I can't believe I didn't get this parking spot. How much longer? Wait a minute. I got another person on my, and he has all this energy of like what is being asked of him and how he feels um disenfranchised.
Sure.
And then there's the flip side of the janitor who's mopping the floors. And he says, every day I get to come into this place of healing and I get to do my part to make sure that it's the best possible place, the healthiest possible place that people can come when they're in crisis and heal them. And so that's just like two very different approaches to life, but that tells you the power of mindset to be able to step back. That's not the question you asked, though. The
No, no.
question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
I can
that
answer.
is beautiful. It really kind of gives you a different perspective of evaluating what some of those, happy moments, or somebody else's sort of a perspective or life events, how could that reflect to yours, and evaluate what are some of those priorities, right? And help you prioritize a little bit further, like,
And so
it,
you're
it,
focusing on
yeah,
like the energy it creates, kind of the
great.
value of why you're doing it is one thing. Um, I think the second part I would probably explore with you is like, okay, what is it that you get from your work that makes it so addictive? Like you're needed, you're having an impact, you're serving people. And when you start to see those needs, like what it fulfills in your world, you can then start to explore how can I get those needs met elsewhere if I really do want to step back from work more, be more present in these different situations, etc.
And so in context, or in comparison to those who perhaps are not working but
Yeah,
want to go back to work, and maybe they have made just being in crisis or being always on alert to those specific activities or maybe live situations, how do you evaluate yourself and self-regulate to when you are not an active participant in this
the work.
work situation? Yeah, and you're a mom, and you have this huge weight on you, the family, to make sure that your family is not observing or is not, you have created this as a baseline for your particular dynamics within the family.
Yeah. So this is a whole kind of body of work that I've done, but women tend to be like radars. We pick up
Mhm.
all the information that's happening in our family, whereas men tend to be lasers. They come in and they have like one mission and they navigate. So the strength for that as a woman is we take in a lot of data and a lot of information, but all that data can be overwhelming, right? The demands, the pressures, the what have you. I would I would be curious for people who are feeling maybe isolated, maybe feeling overwhelmed, maybe feeling the pressures of everything that is needed from them to start to generate a list or a joy jar of what are the small things that you can do for yourself that actually fill your bucket. And these can be really small things. Like it could be carving out time for a walk. It can be listening to a podcast that you really want. It can be calling friends that you feel like I want to reach out to three people in need. I want to tell two people offering compliments. But when you give yourself some options, the things you need to be able to take a step forward towards what matters, it's powerful because all of a sudden it gives you permission to put energy back in your cup. You're and
I love that.
yeah. And that's true for work and at home too.
Oh, absolutely. So those of you who are watching, or you're scrolling down through LinkedIn community, as well as you out in our sponsors community, we're talking to Zen, who is here to tell us a little bit more, remind us that when you're running on empty, your whole family feels it. So let's discuss some strategies that will help you, of course, learn how to regulate, how to give yourself permission to not be overly committed to so many things that are happening in the community. Then, of course, for you to be able to understand, when is the right time for you to step up, do self-care, but also how to really trigger that into your family. And so we'd love to be able to hear your comments, your questions. Tell us a little bit more, of course, where you're watching, so that we can certainly connect with you. And even if you do it afterwards, we want to be able to do that. So
That's brilliant.
uh, Dr. Camille, and so talk to us about the transition ritual. What are some of those things that we can do to transition into a better sort of a mindset? You share a little bit more about the morning check, but tell us a little bit more the transition ritual and what we can do at home.
Yeah, there's a beauty for people who are working remotely. There's a beauty that we can put together our work in our home, and yet there's actually something that really helps us when when we can close one aspect of our life and open up another aspect of our life, and then close that aspect of our life and open up another aspect of our life. And so this can be as simple as giving yourself the opportunity to focus on one thing at a time, and then the next thing at a time, and the next thing at a time. So an example I often use is when I'm actually working from home. I work from home often, and I'm in my home office. I often will sit down and literally just make a list of kind of all of the open projects or open loops or things that didn't happen on the home front. There's a permission slip that I needed to get. I promised to buy tissues for the teacher. It's all those like little random things, but I have a practice of actually creating that space to write those down before I open up my business world. And then I close down my business world before I open up the family world. Um, and actually starting to mark those transitions is really powerful. If you're someone who commutes, I urge you to commute home and maybe stop a block or two shy of your house and put your seat back and give yourself 5 minutes to close your eyes and listen to a great song, visualize the evening you want to have with your kid. Whether I have some clients who literally they close their office in their home and they walk around the block and then they come into their home and they open up their personal life, right? There's all these little metaphoric but powerful aspects. It's when we're trying to do everything all at once, all together, that we don't give ourselves the benefit of the doubt.
Got it. Now, I know that you also speak sometimes about, once a week getting perspective, right? Getting kind of like you just mentioned, parking in along the side of the road and then taking a few minutes to breathe, compose, and then go on to your activities. But how can we actively participate this and make it into a more weekly or monthly routine, perhaps, without feeling like we're adding new tasks into our calendar?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the altitude concept is a really helpful one, especially when it comes to managing your life, managing your family, right? You can lift up and think, okay, what needs to happen this week? What needs to happen next week? What needs to happen next month? So you can kind of look further out across time so that you have fewer interruptions. That manifests in sometimes really silly ways, like um, I'm going to buy enough groceries for these 3 events so I don't have to navigate. I'm going to make cookie dough that's 5 times the recipe so I can always pull it out for the bake off, right? Like those little things when you are thinking far enough out, you can start to navigate. Um, we have a resource and we can put it into the chat called Create More Time, which is really about how do you actually lift up, make a list of absolutely everything that needs to happen, and then start to say, I'm worrying about all these things. Of all these things, which ones actually matter? And so then you can work on the ones that actually matter and you can put the other ones on a back burner. And then once you see your tasks, you can actually start to say, which of these are reoccurring tasks? Are there ways that I can automate this? Are there ways that I can build efficiencies to start to navigate? And then my husband was traveling last week. I like made a list of like all the things that needed to happen, and my kids are old enough; they're in fifth and sixth grade. I said, okay, at this meal you're in charge of loading the dishwasher. This you're in charge of emptying it. This you're in charge of cleaning the counters. And call me selfish, but there were so many other things that I was worried about that I was able to delegate some of those components to just by having that perspective and that clarity of engagement. Can I throw
Awesome.
out something
You
else
know, yeah,
that's like
absolutely. Please.
I'm listening to our conversation and imagining a lot of your listeners who are like doing the very best that they can, and they've got probably I know I have a lot of duct tape in my life, things that duct tape holding together practices. And like, my daughter's going to be late to soccer today because my husband's not going to get home in time. We're doing the best that we can, right? We're doing
Right.
the juggle, which I know everybody's doing. And I often will tune into the internal dialogue, the internal radio station. We tend to be pretty tough on ourselves. And so if people who are listening and they're feeling stretched and they're feeling stressed, one invitation is to just turn down the volume of that inner self-talk, that inner critic that's pointing out, balls dropped, missed opportunities. And then think about the voice you would share with a friend, the things you would compliment a friend on, the grace you might give a friend, and start to turn up the volume on that in your own mind so that we're recalibrating what it is, that the internal dialogue that we have. Does that resonate for you, Laura?
Absolutely. And let me tell you, you will be very proud. I recently started doing online shopping for some of my groceries. So, just like you said, some of those things that are essential and they're always repeat, orders, bread, some canned food or some things that, sauces and things like that, and then not have to make those that long trip, and especially for me in a rural community, just have to go all the way and manage. It's a whole deal of logistics, right? So those things, and then making it a monthly sort of a activity for us to go and pick those other essentials such as meat, fresh vegetables, all the other things that may need a little more attention, but feeling okay with taking advantage of some of those tools that are accessible to give you permission to take that break, to not have to do that additional task that sometimes it feels like it's a really huge task. Does that make sense? And sometimes,
100%. And that's like getting that altitude, being able to
yes,
see a little bit further out. And for people listening, that can even just be once a week, having a rough sense of the meals you're going to have on the table
yes,
and what you need for it. Like we're talking about small shifts to make your life easier.
abs-
100%. I love what you.
absolutely. And that could be also be translated to career growth. What would be some of those tips that you can think that we can do to ourselves, to some of those great leaders within our community, that we can do to apply it towards our career growth?
I love that. I love that. One of the things I've long revered about the Blue Star family community is how much support there is amongst the different members and how positive and upbeat each other is. And I'm imagining for people who might be feeling stretched or frustrated or a little disappointed even about career search or job trajectory, this is a great opportunity to kind of I call it net time, no extra time. Combine activities. Schedule a walking date with a friend who knows you and can see you, and start to ask questions like, what is it that you see in me that I can't see in myself? If you are going to have me focus in 3 areas, what do you think are the things that I would be great at? Right? So you can sometimes feel really paralyzed by yourself, but if you ask a friend, your friend's going to be super grateful for that you want their opinion. Two, if you do it while you're like walking or navigating or doing other things, you could get on the phone and do it while you're folding laundry. You're having an impactful conversation, you're building connection, and you're getting insight or perspective onto who you are and what your strengths are. It can be really inspiring.
Yes, that's great insight. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then I want to take right now some time to highlight really quick some of our members who are watching, and we're not so shy to share where they're watching from. So thank you so much, Aurora, all the
Love
way
it.
in North Carolina. Please pay it forward. Remember to share it with your community. Mary, all the way in Jacksonville. So thank you, all the way in Florida. Well, I'm assuming it's Jacksonville, but it could be anywhere in Florida. Florida is so beautiful. We have so many members. And then we all the way in Arizona. Kristen also shared, so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then all to our members, to our audience, again, I did share the links to Camille's website, to AIM Leadership, as well as some of the links to the resources. There's some great blogs in there that you can also take time to read and then empower your community. And then on this side, I'm going to send a shout out to Julian. Thank you, Julian, for watching and for liking this particular. Thank you to our friends at Briefs Content Service, for Hillary as well, and for others who are watching here and supporting on LinkedIn. To Kathy, thank you so much, Kathy, for supporting as well. We're going to go on our Facebook to share a little shout out to Esme, to Candace, to Dali as well. Thank you so much for supporting. And then in our spouse first community, of course, we have another whole group out here who military spouses who are joining. So thank you, Claire, for supporting and following up. Thank you, Lewis, for sending the shout out here. And thank you so much for Jaddy. And again, once again, another Kristen. Thank you so much for supporting and sharing your thoughts about this. And I hope that you can apply some of these great insights from Camille, but also follow up with her content, resources that are available. And that's really what it is. This is not a one quick discussion solution. It's really the beginning of creating a great, just a pause, reflect, and then let's move forward together. So how can we listen that, we're not, so that we can get out of any particular crisis mode or any things that are challenging on your end, and so that you know that you're not alone. You're not completely on your own. So Dr. Camille, are there any other things that you can share for us that we can take from perspective again, so that if we're feeling empty, our cups are just, just really wearing out, how can we regain? We have 2 more months in the year. Some of us plan ahead or plan for the end of the year, sort of a big success, but you haven't made it yet. How do you handle that? And what are some of those strategies, thoughts that we can do to ourselves to really empower that 2 months, it's okay.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great. I mean, as we where we started with this idea that burnout and loneliness are surging, and one thing for people to start to think about as they head into busier holiday months is what is it you can do to start putting energy back in your bank accounts, like your personal, your physical, your emotional, your mental, your spiritual. And as we described, sometimes it's shifting what's happening in your mind. Sometimes it's not necessarily something you have to do. It's just reconnecting to what it is you love, or reconnecting to someone you love, or reconnecting to why you showed up to do this type of work, and shifting the dial of the language. I think the hardest, like, as I think about what so many people are navigating, it's the uncertainty, it's the fear, it's the loneliness, it's the complexity, it's the volume of everything that needs to happen. And we are so much better together. When you share your worries, someone else is going to feel less alone and less isolated. So, building that web and continuing to build relationships with each other, asking for what you need, offering what you can share, I think all of those are ways to kind of reconnect with the humanity rather than just the long list of to-dos. It can be really overwhelming, right?
Right. Yes, absolutely. And then I want to shift just a little bit gears before we run out of time, 'cause I want to be very mindful of your busy schedule. But you recently
All good.
wrote a book. You added such a great contribution of living real. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was your thought process, and how this great, a compilation of your great strategies came to be?
Yeah, so Living Real came out of a season of grief. I had 5 deaths in 5 months, and it just stacked at such an intensity that I almost didn't have a choice except to go inward and to start to look at how was I operating and what was working and what wasn't working. And what became really clear to me is that life is like a sine wave. There's automatic highs and lows of all of our lives. There are peak moments that we can celebrate, and there's really hard times that can be frustrating and scary and lonely. And what I started to notice is that as a culture, we had started to narrow, or what I call shallow, our emotional range. By refusing to talk about or feel or experience hard emotions, we actually truncated or lost our ability to feel joy and delight. And in many ways, this is an adaptive strategy that's been overused to the point of being a weakness. And so, living real is an invitation to start to understand how is it that we've been shallowing our lives? What is it costing us? And then, how do we design a life that has the capacity to live fully? And my personal lived experience that's really substantiated by the research that I'm delving into is it is that when we live fully and we experience the full range of emotions, the highs and lows, and what's happening, it actually gives us much more breadth and depth, much more humanity. And it's that experience that when you live it and you experience it, you'll be able to differentiate yourself. That's what feeds into wisdom when we're in a world that's so caught up with automation and optimization and data, that it's the humanity of the full range that can be really empowering. So we're going to give away a couple of copies, I think. And I'm it's been powerful to me in my own journey. And I'm finding a lot of people who are finding peace and understanding what's happening kind of societally, and inspiration for how to start to reconnect, re-engage more, be more present.
Absolutely. And talking about being more present, we definitely want to, as you mentioned, we are going to select three Blue Star Career members. So I'm sharing my screen so that you know it's very simple, it's very easy. If you head over to our Blue Star Careers community, which I'll share the link in just a moment, right here, and we are actually streaming this webinar right now as we speak, right here into the community.
Love it.
To as you here and watch us, we watch the replay or catch more, just share some thoughts, share some comments, your takeaways. How are you, how are you feeling? But also, what are you going to do to make sure that your cup doesn't run empty, and you are feeling love and connected? And so, just head over to our community right here in the Blue
Love
Star
it.
Careers.
Love
Share
it.
right here your shared again a comment, and we'll select three lucky members from our community, and then we'll take your thoughts, your feedback, your enthusiasm, and we'll share it also with Dr. Camille. So how does that sound?
And for those of you, that's great. For those of you who aren't, you can go to livingreal.aimleadership.com and you can download a chapter, or listen to a chapter, get some free resources there too. So we're super passionate that this is an important gateway to being the best version of ourselves. So yes, that sounds awesome, Laura. Thank you.
Thank you. And then just to wrap up and to maybe mindful again of our time, what are some, closing thoughts that you can share with us? Any action, call to action, better yet, I'm sorry, that you can share with us that we can be more proactive this week. And then, of course, some of us that perhaps don't have that built-in strategy on a regular basis because we're like, oh, that would be another task to add into my list. How can we give ourselves permission to plan ourselves timeouts for the rest of the year?
I love that. Schedule your timeouts. That would be the number one takeaway. If you could go in and block out time in your calendar and schedule what it is you need, whether it's a nap, whether it's a walk, whether it's a coffee with a friend, block that out, but make sure you pick it at a time that's less likely to get interrupted, right? Don't schedule it during the witching hour when everything gets crazy before dinner. So once, ideally more than once, but at least once a week, block off time to get perspective, to get altitude, to think about what you need to be set up for the week ahead. Block out time that's going to be for you to fill your cup in whatever shape or form that is. And then start to look at ways you can start to build buffers in the transitions as you shift gears from one role to the next role. How do you give yourself a little space to change the energy, to shake it off, to be able to move from one place to the next in a way that's going to help you show up as the person you want to be, as the loving, inspired, grounded parent that so many of our loved ones turn to.
Great, thank you. And then here, of course, as we wrapping up the year, what is 2026 looking at for you? What are some just immediate activities that you have that we can support you, and then, of course, we can be aware of as we continue to follow with you?
Yes, we have two asynchronous curriculums that we are coming forward with, and maybe we could do a raffle for those when they're
Sure.
ready. One is about rethinking energy. So similar to, rather than focusing on burnout, we're going to give you really concrete ways of starting to understand what is it that gives me energy, what is it that depletes my energy, and then what are what I call micro shifts, small shifts that I can make to feel the best version of myself. And often it's stacking these little, what I think of as like 2 millimeter corrections. If you stack those, it changes the trajectory of where you are. So we're going to really delve into rethinking energy. And then we've had so many people say they love the book. They want to turn ideas into action. So we have a Living Real curriculum that we're pulling together, again, all asynchronous. And we are going to have some free events where people who are participating can come in and start to learn and grow with us. So please visit our website. Please sign up for our newsletter so you get access to these different data points. And then we have a technology aim up that's launching in the new year. So we're really excited to share that too. And I just want to say thank you for the work that each and every one of you does to support your loved ones, to support your family, to support your partner, to support all that's happening in our world. It's so easy to see what's not working and where things are we're stumbling or dropping balls. And I want you to take a moment and give yourself a big hug, a little pat on the back and say, you know what, there's a lot that's going right. And celebrating that can be a powerful reboost as we think about how we navigate going forward.
Beautiful. So I want to thank you so much on behalf of everyone else who's watching, and of course, who's going to watch this replay, who's going to head over to our Blue Star Careers community in the neighborhood and know that they're not alone. We got this. We all got this community, and you got every permission to take a break, take a little pause, and then, of course, re-engage when you are ready. So thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. Thank you very, very much. We look forward to staying connected and seeing how all these great 2026 plans really take our community as forward too. Thank you.
And thank you.